Hey everyone, it's your boy, the MMA Judge, back with a video. Today's video, I really wanted to kind of give my input on the Dricus Plessis and the Israel Adesanya's beef. This video, when I first planned it, was going to be longer. However, the YouTuber Yale Crack really touched on a lot of points I was going to touch on. So I was going to make a longer video. It's going to be regurgitating his points. So I really highly encourage you all to go watch his video. As for myself, I did want to kind of tackle one part that I think is a point of contention in this whole issue here. And it actually boils down to one word. Now, before I tell you what that word is, I want to quickly kind of set a foundation here. From what I'm seeing on the media coverage of this, especially on YouTube, there seems to be individuals that come from like a more of a historical background, right? But they lack kind of understanding of the fighters and the UFC culture and things of that nature. And then you have individuals that are, you know, fighters and things like that. However, I think they lack the necessary research on kind of the information that's kind of what's going on here. So this is not all. I'm just trying to say this is where I think I kind of bridge a gap here. As I am a licensed MMA judge, which hence the name of the channel. I practice MMA myself. Yeah, and I've been doing it for a very long time. And I watch the UFC a lot. And then from an educational background and research background, I have an undergrad in communications and I have a master's degree in communications. And part of my degrees, some of the research I did was actually on the apartheid, actually. And it actually opened my eyes to a lot of things. So I feel like I have an understanding on kind of both situations. And I feel like I can kind of give that input. But however, like I said, Yo Crack really did a great job in his video. So please go watch that. So I'm just going to talk about the point of contention on what I think is the issue here. And it boils down to one word. And that word is the word real. Now, Dricus, during a post-fight interview, in one of his first fights in the UFC, at the end of the during the post-fight, he said he's going to be the real African champion that lives, trains, and breathes in African air, you know, and he is not wrong to a certain extent, right? So when he made this comment, I believe Kamaru was still a champion, Francis still a champion, and Izzy was still a champion, right? And when you say that type of thing, the real, by just like how words work, the opposite of real is fake, right? Now he did double down in the video and say he did not call them fake. He didn't challenge their Africancy or them being African, excuse me. However, he has to be understanding that like the word real does call into question the legitimacy of who they are as people, as Africans, right? So that kind of got glossed over. However, I think it kind of stoked the flames during another interview with John Morgan. He asked about just like being another African champion and the belt, and his words along the line said, did those belts ever make it to Africa? Right? And I think a quick Google search before he answered that question, he could have saw that all three, Kamaru, Francis, and Israel, all took the belts back to their respective homelands in Africa. And not only that, they have done great things in Africa for the youth out there. Right? Now, quickly I want to touch on like the idea of the apartheid in history and why the word real is such a problematic statement here. During the apartheid, there are many like laws and other privileges that was afforded to white South Africans over the Native African or other groups, quote unquote, colored, right? There were things that were given to these groups like identification cards, right? Where these labels were put on these groups, which became an issue, right? Because you have this small minority that's privileged that's able to label these groups, right? And if I can be honest, what Dricus is doing is almost akin to that, right? Obviously not the severity, right? But given this small privileged minority the power to be able to label a group, right? Like, who is Dracus to dictate who is a real African? You know, because nobody ever called into the legitimacy of his African heritage. Nobody ever did. I think any person in their right mind would say Dricus is African, right? He is a real African, right? And nobody has called that into question. But when he said the word real, he called into question the legitimacy of Izzy, Francis, and Kamaru. And that's the point of contention here. Because those individuals are real African champions as well. Dricus could have simply said, I'll be the 4th African to hold that belt. Boom. That's it. He by saying that, he gives them their flowers, right? None of this happens. And then also he bigs himself up like, I am coming for that title, even though Izzy holds it, you know, in his weight class. So that's the point of contention in this whole situation here. I don't want to make this video too long. Please, if you get a chance and you listen to the video, go listen to Yale Crack. I think he did a phenomenal job. I think Dracus will be well to kind of understand his word usage and just simply say he misspoke. However, what I've seen for other videos, he has doubled down. Now, I don't want to alleviate Izzy from you know, any type of blame. I think his antics in the cage wasn't necessarily called for, right? You know, I think race should be talked about more. History should be talked about more. You will see individuals really try to bury it, right? We're all the human or color blindness, all that other stuff, right? That doesn't help in the idea of progress, in my opinion, right? But that's just my opinion. Other people can say differently. However, I just think that's a point of contention here, to kind of bury it instantly, because a lot of things we do as people is based on history, right? And understanding. You have to understand your past to know where you're going. So I think Dracus would be well served if he just mentioned I misspoken when the real. Just on a statement of real. And I think this whole situation kind of resolves itself. However, when you say the word real, you do call into you call attention to like whether like Izzy, Kamaru, and Francis are real. And we all know they are real, just like as Dracus is a real African. The 3 are Africans as well. So that's all I wanted to say. I'm gonna link Yale Crack video in this description, and yeah, thank you all so much. I can't wait to have more videos. Talk to you later.